Good morning, live from the, kind of hazy streets of New York City.
Well, listen, it's Memorial Day week, if you will, and you have a couple of Memorial Day observations. One, starting in the cab, the big talk in the cabs this week was the issue of Hiroshima. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a very generational kind of thing, because remember, there's not that many. Well, there are, I guess, but there's not that many people who really were alive at that time.
Yeah.
We're talking about the old codgers. And they're very upset about Obama going there because they figure no matter what he's saying or anything they tried to appeal, it was like an apology.
Yeah.
And, of course, I don't think it was a good weekend to do it either. So the older folks are really moaning about that, and they don't like it, and they're angry. And, you still got a lot of people around. And remember, I don't mean to offend any present-day Japanese, either here or there, who hate their guts. And we'll never forgive them until they pass on into the next generation. So it was a very big and very emotional discussion. And, of course, hooked up with Memorial Day, because the only people who really carry on about World War II today are people who were alive at that time.
Although you have many World War II buffs, I think, but you're right. You think of the number of Memorial Day parades that aren't really well attended, and people have their
usually old
barbecues.
People going down the street with a walker.
Yeah, you're right. And then you have you take an issue with a radio talk show host there in New York.
Yeah, I was wondering whether you were going to ask me about him.
I can't believe this.
He's a punk. I don't know what the standards are here. Do you mind? Should I mention his name? Shouldn't I mention his name? I don't want to create. Should I mention it?
Sure. It's Ron Kuby, right? Yeah. I don't know.
Ron Kuby is a very left-wing liberal lawyer. Involved with civil liberties, what have you. He used to be the assistant to a guy named William Kunstler, who also was a big deal, civil this, civil that, and everything. So very left-wing, very liberal. He happens to be the talk show host of, as you people would say, the morning drive in New York City with a fellow named Curtis Sliwa. This is supposed to be very clever. Curtis is he's the Guardian Angels guy. This is clever casting. Curtis is supposed to be the right-wing conservative. Ron Kuby is supposed to be the left-wing liberal.
Right.
They're both full of baloney. But anyway, I'm listening to the radio because I can't listen to you every minute.
Sure, right.
And Curtis Lewis says to Ron Kuby, the broadcaster for ABC, he says, "What are you going to do this weekend?" And Kuby says, "I'm looking forward to grilling some flags on the barbecue." And I'm thinking to myself, what did he just say? What kind of a thing is that to say? And I really was very offended with it. And I was kind of offended very much so, and I'm sure other people were offended, because I had just seen a picture of a U.S. Army officer handing a young boy, it's on my website as a matter of fact, handing him a flag.
Yeah.
After his father's, internment. And that flag is going to be the only thing that kid's going to have, in a way, to remember his dad.
Yeah.
So that very cavalier thing, I'm just going to burn it or anything. So anyway, and this is where it's going to probably involve you, I looked up to see who's the president of Cumulus. It's some babe, and I guess at some time in the past they bought ABC.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm presuming your station has nothing to do with these
people.
No, I'm not
good.
getting you in trouble.
Either way, I'd...
So I wrote to her, and I said, I'm not suggesting that you fire him, because I don't think you do that every time a talk show host misspeaks.
Yeah.
But he should be punished, and what I'd like you to do is order him to kiss my you-know-what in Times Square. So I'm curious to see what her response is, but now we'll get to the part that's involved with you. She will send me back a very nice letter, and she will thank me very much. And then I will respond to her saying, I have a very dear friend who's a broadcaster in upstate New York. How about giving him a national show?
Sure, let's do it. We'll do it.
What makes you think I'm talking about you?
Peter, this is it. That's very good.
I like the way you jumped to that
It's
conclusion.
the Bob Wellington show in Watertown. Darn it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, why does anybody care what I did? I'll tell you why they care, because I was angry, and you don't want your chief correspondent angry.
No. And you know what? That is, when you talk about, we got into this on Friday going into Memorial Day weekend, how what really the Memorial Day weekend is, in what the flag represents, at least for me, is, you're right, that soldier handing the mother or the child that folded flag at a funeral service, and the taps playing, and that's what it is. That's what this is all about.
Yeah, and by the way, I wouldn't. I mean, I think burning the flag, I wouldn't outlaw it. I wouldn't put people in jail for it. But it's just so unbelievably stupid and nasty to do it. And it's just not. Yeah, of course, it's just a piece of material, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ron Kuby has incurred my wrath.
All right, and we'll see what happens in Times Square. How about this story though? That I'm shocked by, but we really shouldn't be, because there are more people living in this country who might be related to figures that might surprise you. Okay, with that said, we're talking about North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. There's a tie in New York City.
Yeah, and I just, something about it, what I'm about to say is completely unsubstantiated. I got no proof of it, but there's something not kosher about this story. The Washington Post came out with a story that said his aunt, I mean his real aunt, his maternal aunt, this isn't somebody 7 generations away, was moved to the United States, in the New York area. The CIA bought her a house for $200,000. And she and her husband have a dry cleaning store someplace. There's a picture of them in Central Park from the back that I got a hold of, and I guess it was in the Washington Post. But it's just, I don't know. I don't see the CIA doing that, and if they did, I want my money back.
Well, have you ever seen the CIA's clothing? I mean, it's always well pressed and, dry cleaned. Maybe that's, who knows?
I mean, $200,000.
Yeah,
what's the point?
Yeah. Well, I guess my first thought was in New York, a $200,000 home is what, a closet?
Yeah, you're right. It's a slum in Flatbush.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is, he's notorious for murdering family members for this perceived lack of loyalty. So maybe that's part. They said, listen.
You see, you people fall for the propaganda lies. That's nonsense. North Korea is a wonderful place. As a matter of fact, my wife and I have decided that when we retire, we're going to retire to North Korea.
That's the place to go. Yeah.
It just seems like either North Korea or Zimbabwe. We're not really sure yet.
Well, and because you're friends with Dennis Rodman, I mean, it's a logical move for retirement, I think.
Exactly. So. Anyway, if I find her, I'll get her on the air for
All right,
you.
Let's get her. I think that would be something. Anyway, very interesting. I was telling before we took you on that it is the best tour in New York City, and some examples of places you might take people that they might be surprised by.
Korean dry cleaning store.
The Korean dry cleaning store. And you can get your clothing pressed there and everything. It's just really a beautiful thing. So.
Yeah, and by the way, let me remind you, you nice listeners, that we have 3 kids in the Army, and my oldest son, is right now stationed in Korea on a 9-month tour of duty, and he doesn't have a clue as to why we have 30,000 American troops there.
Yeah. End of the day, it's really, really crazy to think that you could walk into the park, and you're walking along Central Park, and you could run into someone who's the aunt of Kim Jong-un. You just, it's kind of surreal when you think about it. So, all right,
we
Peter.
live in a surreal world, and your job is to tell the world about it.
You've
been doing it for many years.
Good stuff. Peter Franklin, Gabby Cabby, it's Gabby.com. Thanks. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Quick break coming back at WIBX.